Oh, it's now streaming live on YouTube, it says on the left. We're good to go? Oh, okay. We're going to be starting soon. Everybody's ready to roll? Okay, I think we're ready to commence the meeting and welcome. It's the City of Belleville Committee of Adjustment for August the 20th, 2020. And my name is Brian Miller and I'm going to be chairing the meeting today. First of all, any disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof by anyone?
I'm going to declare a conflict on application A 1320.
1320?
That's
Okay,
correct.
thank you. Anyone else? Duly noted, and note that Chris sends his regrets. Okay, our first application today is A 1220 for an application for a minor variance at 416 Bridge Street East. The applicant is Oliver Terrazio, and the owner is Bridge Street Automotive. Is Oliver with us today? Want to apologize for the delay there. We had some issues with the technology, but hopefully that Oliver will be joining us soon. We're just waiting for Oliver to join us. Hopefully he'll be joining us soon, but in the meantime, what we're looking at here is the, okay, Oliver, you there?
Just
Oh.
no.
You there, Oliver?
Hasn't got sound.
Can't hear you. We're having difficulty hearing you, Oliver.
This is connecting to audio.
Bit of a delay here, but we'll be with you in just a second. Oliver, you're connected yet? Apologize for the delay here. Yeah, it just says connecting. We're having a little bit of difficulty here connecting with the applicant here. Okay, Oliver, you there?
He's on mute.
You're on mute, Oliver.
How's
There he
that?
is.
There.
That's it.
Hey, Oliver, you with us?
I am with you.
Okay, good. So just to start with, can you just give us a little update on what your application is all about? And then if we have any questions, we'll be asking you those.
Certainly. Basically, it's to update the measurements for a storage bin that I have for tires. The existing measurements will bring the whole container out to probably the middle of the parking lot. So basically, I want to amend the measurements for that, so it brings it closer to the back north side of the property line. Right now, it's about 15 feet away from that property line on the north side, and then the the east side, probably about 50, 60 feet from there. So it's located kind of beside the building. So that's kind of the gist of what the amendment application is for.
So what you're requesting is that basically the storage container be basically in line with the back of the building.
Correct.
Okay. Anything else to add?
No, that's it.
Okay, any of the committee members have any questions for this gentleman? So this is for Bill?
Yeah, through the chair, how long has that container been there?
Since 2014. So
And
it's been about 2014, been about 3, 4, 5, 6, well, 6 years now.
okay, and do you have a permit for it?
I didn't know that a permit was required for it.
Okay, I'm not 100% sure that a permit is required, but I thought I would ask nonetheless.
Okay.
You're talking a building permit or just a permit of any kind?
No, a permit to allow that storage container to be on the property.
I don't know if Greg or Andrew can answer that question for us, if he needs one.
Sure, through the chair to Councillor Sanderson. There's not a specific permit in place that would be required to have a container on a property. However, it may be something that's subject to a building permit. And if the variance is granted, certainly that would be something that we would follow up with the building section to determine if any further action is needed there.
Okay, any other, Glenn?
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Tarasio. So just to be clear, it's been there since 2014. Have you had any complaints or any bylaw complaints about the container being there for the last 6 years?
None whatsoever.
Okay, and Greg, sort of through the chair to Mr. Pinchin, I'm sure that, again, this isn't property standards, but I'm not sure that there would be any way to check that, but I'll take Mr. Tarasio at his word there, so.
Yeah, and I think the only reason why we're having this meeting today is because somebody had put a complaint in who was, so a complaint has been put in. That's why we're having this discussion.
Okay. Robert, did you have a question?
Yeah, how many square feet is the shipping container?
The container is, bear with me one sec, I got better here somewhere.
Or the measurements?
The measurement is 20 feet long by 8 feet wide. So it'll be about 160 square feet.
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is from what I've seen, just Googling the Ontario Building Code, that containers that cover an area between 160 and 320 square feet are considered as structures when placed on land. And since the placement or construction of any structure covering an area over 108 square feet requires a building permit, then you're required to get a permit for your container. So it sounds like even if we grant this, you're gonna have to go to the building department and get a permit for it. And they're gonna have to inspect it and make sure that it applies to the codes that they have in place.
Okay. Now again, in terms of building building code applications, even for a solid built structure such as a shipping container.
Yeah, what I was reading you is strictly in relation to shipping containers from the Ontario Building Code.
Okay.
Any other questions for this gentleman? Susan?
I think we've already established the answer, but so you've had these various structures beside your main garage for several years, and all you're doing is making it legal to have had those. You're not,
Yeah, basically, I'm trying to make it legal so I can put it there, and it's there for a specific purpose, and that is to allow a lot of my senior customers to store their tires in there who live in apartment buildings and who don't have the ability to move their tires in and out of their vehicles when they have tire changeovers. So I thought it'd be a service provided for my customers in that sense.
So you're
Not
not-
knowing the essence of all the legalities that I have to go through.
so you're not adding any additional containers, like there's one at the west end of your building there. How long has that one been there?
The west end, no, there's no building container there.
There is a unit of something at the very end of your garage building.
Yeah, that's a vehicle that I put old scrap tires in, so that they're not exposed to and stored outdoors. Because again, from a complaint that I had, and that's a whole different story, but the purpose of that was to eliminate the outside storage of used tires. So now I have the truck there in order to store those used tires. And then Trillium, which is a company that come and picks up old tires, they come around on their schedule and pick up those tires as need be.
No
But
additional,
it's not a structure, it's a mobile vehicle.
yeah.
And it's empty from time to time.
So yeah, correct.
Any other questions? Okay, is there anyone else on waiting to make comments regarding this application from the general public? Okay. Okay, who's wishes to make comment?
Hello?
Angelo?
Yes, that's me.
Okay, so you wish to make some comments regarding the application at 416 Bridge Street.
Well, basically, yes.
Go ahead.
What I didn't hear anything up to now. This is strictly I've been held off the Zoom meeting for some reason. Maybe you can tell me why.
Well, the meeting started late because we had some technical issues.
So is this the opening? Sorry, let me see here what I've got here.
We had some opening comments, and then Oliver spoke for a moment, just basically explaining what he was applying for. And now we're asking for any of the general public if they would like to make any comments. So that's where you fit in.
Right. Okay. Well, my comment is that the minor changes, according to what you said over here, it's a minor variance of 70%, which is completely unacceptable to give out 70% of the bylaw. I could, one can consider 10, 20, 30%, but to give up an additional, a total of 70% is completely unacceptable. So my comment to Oliver, or to the committee, not to Oliver, is that why would I give that up? Now, ever since the gentleman has taken over next door, I've lived here for 43 years. I never had to do a complaint for anything. We got along very well with the people, Doug Rollins, Bob Shaw, and whoever else was here. Okay, they maintained the place pretty decent. We never had to complain anything. Now, ever since Mr. Tesario is
It's Terrazio.
Terrazio, the building has become a junkyard. It's that simple. That's the only reason we complained. We have had, for the last couple of years, we've had nothing but tires piled up behind my property. I'm talking about within 10 feet of my property, and we asked them to move it back so they wouldn't bother us. I even went to the extent of planting a bunch of cedar trees to avoid viewing those tires and the garbage that piles up along the fence. I have a total of 200 feet, linear feet alongside his property. Okay, we are borderline 200 feet. And there is an awful lot of other stuff going on that I'm not interested in discussing at this time. Hello?
Yep.
There's something going on. I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, we hear that too.
Yeah, there's some,
All right. Well, still. Okay, that's about what I'm gonna say. I'm definitely against any changes to the bylaw. And a minimal change would be a minimal anywhere between 10, 20%, not 70%. So you decide as you wish, but I'm definitely 100% against it.
okay, do you live on the west side of the garage? Immediately
Right.
beside of it?
Yes.
There's a fence
right.
down there part way, is there not?
Yes, I put it up.
Is there
Okay.
a fence all the way down on that property?
All the way down that property is mine, and all the garbage collection along the side from the garage, from people throwing stuff, all ends up along the fence. And it wouldn't be bad if he kept that place clean. Okay, now but it doesn't. It piles up, he never picks it up. He has, yeah.
I think what we're talking about here is the issue of the storage container being on the other side of the building, not the fact that there may be garbage or tires on
All
your
right.
side.
Yeah, I
It's to deal with
understand.
the placement of that storage container on the east side of the garage and the distance between the storage container and that property line. That's what the issue is today. If there's issues as far as property standards or garbage,
Yeah.
whatever, then that should be taken up with property standards.
Yeah, okay,
We're
no,
only
that's
dealing
fine.
with the placement of this storage container
I
today.
understand, but even that is on the other side, it looks pretty bad. If you have been, or if you come and take a look at it, okay? At the moment, he's had what? He's got a pickup truck with snow plow still on. He's got a garbage bin. He's got a blue bin. He's got a trailer, and even that, behind that has not been maintained at all. So to allow him to cover that up with this shipping container, because it's a shipping container to maintain his customer's tire. I mean, we have a storage facility 700 meters north on Herkimer Road that he can rent and put the tires there instead of having a shipping container that really doesn't look very nice at all, even though they tries to cover it up.
I understand this has been there since 2014.
Right, yes, I know that. We know that. We haven't complained about that. I have no idea where this came from. We didn't complain that. My complaint
Actually,
was
I think you did complain about it, Angelo.
not about
You also complained about the tires. that were
let me finish.
externally, and that had to,
Okay,
and then I had to
One
buy
person
a
at a
truck in
time,
order
speak,
to-
please.
Sorry.
Again,
Sir,
the issue at hand here is the placement of that storage container on the east side of the building and whether it should be left where it is or moved out. That's the issue today. It's not to do with the garbage as you say, on the other side or
Okay, yeah,
any of those
no.
other issues. That's
And
the only thing we're dealing with today.
I understand, and the reason why we were talking about the complaint, it was strictly because of the tires piled up that we had behind my property. I never complained about the container because it really doesn't affect me that much. It just
Okay.
looks bad.
Okay, then
It looks
if you have complaints about other issues, then there are other
Yes.
avenues to take. We're dealing with the placement of this container only today.
Yeah,
That's
that-
what we're talking
All
about.
right, yeah, that will be, well, it will be forthcoming anyway, but that container definitely doesn't look good there. And I'm against the giving up.
Okay, well,
That-
we thank you for your comments. And
Okay.
we will, is there anybody, board member that wishes to ask this gentleman any questions? Glenn?
Through the chair to Mr. Del Grosso. Mr. Del Grosso, again, I want you to appreciate, this is the Committee of Adjustment. We're here to look at the bylaw. This is not the Committee of Neighbors not getting along, and that's
Right.
unfortunate.
No,
So we have to look at the matter that's at hand. My question to you is, and I just want to be really clear about this, we're looking at a container that's been there for 6 years, and it's on the opposite side of the property from where you are. So I just want to be clear, if it hasn't been there for 6 years, my question is, why is it suddenly an issue to you today if it hasn't been an issue for the past 6 years?
well, because up to now, nobody's done anything about it. The city never listened to anybody really, except for other complaints, but not about that container.
So
And-
again, through the chair to Mr. Del Grosso, this is the point that I'm trying to make, is that there are mechanisms in place within, in terms of bylaws, in terms of property standards.
Why is the bylaw there to give 15 meters, not 4.5? Now, there is a reason for that bylaw to be there.
That's
It doesn't
correct.
affect me personally at this time, but in the future it could, because he has no regards of anything that has been told or approached, and therefore it's not obscene,
once-
but it doesn't look very nice.
So once again, through the chair to Mr. Del Grosso, again, this is not the Committee of Neighbors not getting along. This is the Committee of Adjustment.
Yeah,
So I'm just trying to, I guess one of the questions I have through the chair to Mr. Pynchon. Mr. Pynchon, the property that is immediately north on Bridge Street, have we received any on Herkimer Avenue, which would be the closest one in proximity to the container where it has been for the last 6 years? Have we received any communications or any comments from the owners of that particular residence?
well, I don't know that
Mr.
we
Del
have.
Grosso, sorry, I'm asking Mr. Pynchon, please.
The questions for Mr. Pynchon?
Yes, through the chair to Mr. May Anderson. I understand Mr. Chan has had some discussion informally with the neighbor, but I don't believe any concerns were expressed about it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. My
Okay.
comments are done.
Well, if I
Anybody
may,
else have a question for Angelo?
well, I was thinking, since you haven't heard anything from the lady in question or the gentleman above, it's because to avoid any of the problems, they have put a 10-foot fence all the way around their property. Okay, so therefore you won't hear from them unless it affects and it damages the fence. That's about it.
Okay, we appreciate your comments, and there may be someone else that would like to make some comments. So we thank you for your input, and we'll move on to the next individual who may want to make some
Okay.
comments.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Okay.
Pitts.
Is there anyone else that wishes, that's joining us?
Yes, hi.
Claudia?
Yes. I wasn't sure if I was able to speak, and I might have missed
Yes.
the beginning part of the meeting. But I wanted to talk again. I know the question is about the container and that we're looking at trying to find a solution for this individual. I had submitted comments as well, basically stating that the container is an eyesore. It doesn't look very good. It looks like a shipping via rail type container. None of the containers there are well kept. And so, when we're talking about the appeal of the community and the neighborhood and how this is impacting our enjoyment either of the properties that are close by, looking at these containers that are not well kept. I had submitted comments to that effect. And I also do agree that the fact that we do have a zoning bylaw that states that a container has to be within 15 meters of a residential property line, that should be enforced. I know that it has been there for many years, but it's situations like this and the city bringing it to our attention that we can have the opportunity to discuss it and change the fact that we have been looking at it for X number of years.
Where do you live in relation to this building?
I have an interest in the property at 400 Bridge Street and 398 Bridge Street.
Okay, so that's on 398 and
Yes.
what was the other property, sorry?
400.
400.
400, okay. All right, any questions for this lady from the board members? I guess there aren't any, so if you have no further comment, we thank you for your comments and we'll
Well, I
listen.
did kind of want to say something else. Like,
Go
I
ahead.
know that the variance is quite large from the 15 meters going to 4.5 meters. And so I was kind of wondering that if this container was kind of turned sideways, that it would allow a bit more clearance from the residential property line. And then the other thing that I would think would make things better is if this container was fenced in. I've seen a lot of other businesses do this, like Tim Hortons typically does this to all their properties, and it just makes it look nicer from the street view.
Claudia, I think I agree with you with that. I think a fence would probably make it more appealing, a curbside appeal to that. So in terms of that, I mean, I'm willing to work with that. Unfortunately, though, we need to change the bylaw in order for the container to stay there in order for me to build a fence so that we can have some curb appeal.
Yeah, and I think that the like I said, it seems to be very long one way and not as wide. And so if it were flipped, so it would take maybe 3 or 4 parking spots instead of taking, I don't know, 1.5 parking spots, it might be able to maintain that distance from, not maintain it, but be a little bit closer and not such a big discrepancy on the bylaw of 15 meters.
Well, it's the distance from the unit to the back fence, whether you turn it sideways or you long ways, it's still going to be the same distance to that property line on the back.
No, not necessarily, because it is a rectangular shape, this shipping container is not square.
Yes, but if you turned it sideways, the narrow part is against the fence to the back. If you turn it the other way and leave it in the same spot, you've still got the same distance behind it.
Well, that's not what we wanted to do. You would bring it forward to where,
Yeah.
you see where it is protruding in the front? That's
Yeah.
where you would place it. So you would have a greater distance against a residential property line. So you would flip it sideways and bring it forward to where it is right now, sitting.
Okay, I understand now what you're getting at. Okay,
Hmm.
all right. Any other comments? Questions?
I think
Go ahead,
that's it
Claudia.
for me. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for your comments. And is there
Okay.
anyone else that from the public that wishes to comment? So we have no further comments from the general public that are going to join us today. Any other questions, concerns from the committee members as to this location of this shipping container? Robert?
So I just wanted to direct this. Apparently you've said this already, Oliver, that you're willing to
Sorry, I lost you.
build a fence.
You back?
Cutting in and out, sorry.
Go ahead, Robert.
That decent uses and preferably located away. Pardon?
I'm not sure if Oliver heard all your comments or not.
No, I didn't. Sorry, Robert.
Oh, okay, sorry. There are design policies that address how you're supposed to contain and hide, storage facilities on your property. So I'm just want to make sure that you're aware of that you need to find a way to contain and hide that, whether through landscaping or through building a fence or whichever. And that might satisfy your neighbors a little more. I do understand what the neighbors are talking about with the adjustment, feeling that it's not minor. However, the fact that the building is already encroached at that, I think we're dealing with something that's kind of grandfathered in and bringing it in line with the building. So I do see this as a minor adjustment, even though you're talking about a 70%.
And if this container was out 15 meters, it would be out in the middle of the parking lot, which would make it look worse than where it is now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But I think that needs to be addressed as well, and that the container needs to be hidden properly and make it, you know, whether it's behind some evergreens or something like that, it's got to be masked.
Yeah, and I can understand that, because, you know, in terms of building a fence to contain the structure, and not only the container, but I can build the fence so that it contains the scrap metal bin and the garbage bin, which again are movable items anyway. But I mean, to me, that would make more sense than, you know, trying to, number one, either remove the container and now having to notify all these, you know, older people to see if they can find different avenues to store their tires, and or moving that container to the middle of the parking lot, which would actually make it more of an eyesore than it's existing now.
That's correct. That's correct. Okay, Bill?
Yes, so my comments are for the committee, not for the members of the public. If we've heard all the input from the public, my thoughts are that we shouldn't grant this request. We should turn the entire file, and I don't know what the right mechanism is, over to property standards to review the property, and you know, if there are building permits that are required, let's identify them, so that we know that if it comes back to the Committee of Adjustment, which is what I would see, then everything's in order. The fact that it's been there for 6 years doesn't make it right. It just means that it's been sitting there unattended to, or just nobody's bothered to complain. Although I heard varying versions of that. I heard one version where there had been no complaints, and then I heard another version from a different member that there had been complaints. So those are my thoughts. I certainly won't be supporting it.
Just a comment. I see no problem with what he's asking for, because it's going to be aligned with the back of the building. And if he's agreeable to put some type
Yeah,
of
that's fine, Chair. You're entitled to your opinion.
Let him speak.
I'm just making a comment that if he is willing to put some fencing or something to block the container, then, and it matches the back of the garage, the person directly behind them has no concerns apparently, because we've never heard any comments. So as to put it out in the middle of the parking lot, as I mentioned earlier, would make it look worse than it is now. So as far as I'm concerned, his request is not unreasonable, and that with the fencing, then I have no problem with that. Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I kind of would like to see it, you know, where it is right now, as far out to the front as possible, so that we can maintain a larger distance to the residential property line. And that's makes sense. I don't think that we should be going and allowing 15-meter setback to go from 15 meters to a 4.5 meter. So it may end up being 15 meters to 8 meters, or even 10 meters. And I think we should try to use as much as we can to keep that residential setback, because there are reasons for that bylaw being in place, such as the views and clearances.
Point of order, Chair. Who's speaking?
Yeah.
Claudia Martalius, one of the people that from the public that made comments earlier.
I thought we were complete the public
Yeah.
input.
Do you have one last comment, Claudia?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just thought that, we were talking again about having this setback being 4.5 meters, and I just want to make it clear that I do not agree with that. I think
Okay.
that where the
We understood
container,
your comments.
Okay, that's fine. We understand your comments. Is there
Yeah.
any other comments by the board
Yeah.
members?
okay, I don't know who this person is speaking right now, and why he's being so aggressive, but I thought it's still public comments here that are being taken.
Your comments, the gentleman that was speaking is one of our board members, Mr. Sanderson.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Sanderson, okay.
Sanderson, okay.
Uh,
Moving along here,
Yeah.
I think we've heard some comments and whatever. and-
Mr. Miller,
Mr. Chair, would it be possible for the technology people to make sure that once we've, and again, just to avoid this in the future, once we've accepted the public comments and we have now closed the public comments and we're back to just the committee, can we have any other participants just muted so that we're following the proper protocols to the point of order that Councillor Sanderson is making?
I agree with
Yeah.
that, Glenn, yes.
I was going to say, I was going to answer Mr. Brian, you regards that the people behind are never made. You haven't heard from the people behind. And the reason for that I mentioned before is because they built a 10-foot fence so that they wouldn't deal with this.
That's fine. That's fine. They did build the fence, but they were not here today to add any comments to it. So we're going to take the stand that they are not in opposition to what is happening. So having said all of that, is there any more comments by the board members before we look for a motion? Bill?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So my apologies if I sounded aggressive. I certainly didn't mean to. I just felt that we were on to the next portion of the meeting. So my apologies to those members of the public that were trying to chip back in. I think part of the complication is that, we're using Zoom rather than meeting in person. So I don't know that necessarily everybody understands what the process is. And certainly I heard your views loud and clear, and I do not support the application that's before us.
Okay, any other comments? Robert?
So just to Bill, are you then motioning to defer this subject to the approval of the appropriate areas of the city to look at the file?
Well, I would like to do that, but I'm not sure what the process is, Robert.
Okay.
If we defer it, what are we going to, why are we deferring it? What questions that were unanswered today?
Whether a building permit needs to be in place, yes or no? And if the answer is yes, then where is the building permit? Are there other issues associated to that property that the property standards might be able to identify as a result of undertaking a review of the container? So those were my thoughts, Brian.
Okay, if we were to, someone was to make a motion to approve this, for example, then they could put those in the motion as part of the motion. Is that correct, Greg?
Yes. Ultimately, it could be part of a motion. I guess the concern I have with the building permit is that building permits cannot be issued until they comply with all applicable law, which includes zoning. So if a building permit's required, it could not be issued until zoning relief was in place, for example, a minor variance or something. So it's a kind of a chicken and egg thing that way.
So if it got approved at the 4.5 meters on the condition that if a building permit is required, is that what you're saying?
Yes, I mean, that would be fair for clarity. That would be fair to include that.
That's what I was getting at. That if we approved it with those conditions in there, rather than instead of deferring it to come back later, we could do it all today. Any other comments?
So through the chair. So if we approve it today and it requires a building permit, it's de facto complete because we've approved the variance in advance of the building permit. Therefore, the building permit will be granted because the variance exists. So I think we've got the cart ahead of the horse.
On,
Maybe Greg can answer that.
sorry, through the chair, I mean, on the converse to that, I guess, though, is if they come in and apply for a building permit for it, building will say it doesn't comply with zoning, so they can't issue a permit.
Exactly. So then they'll have to move the container.
No, well, or apply for a minor variance, which is what they've done.
I understand.
So
Ben's been waiting.
Glenn,
go ahead.
Glenn.
Robert.
Through the chair to Councillor Sandison, I just want to make sure that I'm clear here, because I think the desire for this committee is to make the right decision and make sure that we understand what our role is here. And what I'm hearing is that there are kind of two sides to this. One is the property standards side of it, which is how it looks and whether it suits the character of the city or the character of the city that we hope that we are creating and are helping to maintain. And so if I'm not mistaken, Councillor Sandison, I think what you're looking for is really clarification on what property standards there are, if any, when it comes to containers and fencing and those matters. And I don't want to presume to speak for you. Is that correct? Or am I not understanding it properly?
No, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay. So then I guess through the chair to Mr. Pynchon, are there property standards today for containers and garbage containers and metal containers and what have you for commercial properties within the city of Belleville?
I would need to defer to my colleagues in bylaw enforcement for that. I don't have that information in front of me.
So again, I think, if I may, I think that I think what we're trying to do here is make sure that if we do in fact approve this, we understand that it's going to be, fenced in, that there are some requirements, that it's going to look proper. I can appreciate that there are different opinions as to how far back it should be or where it should be. But I think what we're also trying to do here is make sure that it's something that not only meets with the general intent of the bylaw, but that it's not an eyesore, it's for lack of a better term. So I guess that would be the only reason that I would see us deferring it, so that we could get some clarity on what those property standards might be, so that we can make a better informed decision as to whether or not to approve or decline this request.
Okay. Any other comment? Glenn, are you making a motion to defer or?
Well, I'd be prepared to make a motion to defer to the next meeting, so that we can receive feedback from the city and from property standards regarding what the current property standards guidelines are for shipping containers and for garbage containers on properties. Because if we are going to put conditions on the approval, then I think we need to understand whether those conditions are in alignment with what the property standards are.
That makes
And
sense.
if not, I just think we need to understand. I don't think we have enough information, is what I'm saying.
So you're making a motion to defer it. Do we have a seconder?
I will.
Bill? Oh. All in favor of deferring it? 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. So we defer it till the next meeting, and Greg, you're clear as to what we're looking at there for the answers to our questions. Okay, thank you. Moving on to the next application. We have an application A1320 for a minor variance, and it has to do with a 34 Gardner Street, and it's up to do with the percentage of coverage on the lot, I do believe, from 40 to 42. Let me just double check. Is that correct?
Yep.
Yeah. And yeah, Glenn, you have a conflict on this, so you're out, okay? Any questions, concerns about 34 Gardner Street?
Nope.
Nothing?
no, I'll
Nobody?
make a motion to approve it.
I'll
Is there any-
second.
Do we have anybody in the general public that want to
Oh, right.
comment on 34 Gardner? Before we move on?
No? Doesn't-
Yeah? No? Okay, is Chris Perry is the applicant, so he is going to join us. Are you there, Chris?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so this is a brand new building and it's to do with the lot coverage, right?
Correct.
Okay, any additional comments that you wish to make today?
No, we're still with the same situation as we were when we filed the application. Max lot coverage is 40%. We're looking to exceed the 42%. All setbacks are still maintained, and that would be it.
Any questions for Mr. Perry? By any of the
No.
board members?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And there's no one else from the general public that wanted to comment on Gardner? Don't believe so? Okay. Comments, questions? Motion?
Carol, I'll
Carol
second.
moved it.
Susan will
Seconded
second.
by Susan.
Susan,
Susan, all in favor?
yeah,
Carried. Okay, there. Get all of our hands up there. Okay, our next application is B 151622-20 for a severance, and it's to do with 847, 863 Thrasher Road. And what we're looking at here is basically doing a lot line adjustment and then severing off a small piece of property to add to an abutting property. So is Mr. Watson going to join us today? Okay. Mr. Watson, are you with us? Keith, you there?
He's there.
Oh.
We're just waiting for his audio.
Okay,
Yep, there he is.
there you go. Okay. So, yeah, this is just a lot line adjustment and then severing off a little piece of property to add to an abutting property. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's just that swapping of land to make the lot line perpendicular to the roads and accommodates that driveway.
Mhm.
And then up north of the creek, they can't reach that property from there, so it's just going to be added onto Dr. Hollett's property to the west.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Watson?
I do.
Yes, go ahead, Sue.
Just, is there any money changing hands through all of this?
Sorry, I didn't hear that question.
Is there any money changing hands through all of this?
Well, I'm not really privy to that, but I'm sure that.
Well, for the severance,
probably the
probably.
Yeah, yeah,
probably
like,
for the larger severance, I'm sure that he's getting some money for that. The other one, they probably just maybe switched property for property, I would think.
oh,
Because it's about
okay.
equal.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments, questions regarding Thrasher Road? And I guess there's no one else in the general public that wants to comment on that, okay? No further comment. Do we have a motion? Sue, you move it, that we approve it, and Robert, you second it? All in favor?
Yep.
Yeah.
2, 3, carried. Thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next part of our meeting, the general business is the confirmation of the minutes of our meeting of July 16th. Do we have a motion to approve those? Robert and Glenn, all in favor? Carried, thank you. Any correspondence other than what we've received, Greg? No other correspondence? Any other business? No, our next meeting will be September the 24th at 3:30 in the afternoon at this location. Is there any other questions, comments before we adjourn?
Do we know if we're going to be face to face or are we Zoom?
Greg maybe can answer that.
At this point, we don't know for sure how it's going to proceed. We're kind of following the lead from PAC, I think, but I haven't heard what the next steps are there either. So we will find out in due course.
Keep us posted. Okay.
Okay,
Anybody will be away next month that they know of at this point?
no,
Okay, well, thank you. And adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Robert, thank you. Glenn? Okay, thank you very much and have a good rest of the summer. We'll see you next month.
stay safe.
But
Yep.
Thanks, guys. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.